Yes, thanks for having me, Teresa. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. One of the things I wanted to start right off the bat with is that I really believe the majority of people everywhere are really experiencing some level of stress right now.
Mm.
Varying degrees, but everyone I talk to is stressed about something.
Mhm.
So I want to know if you think, I know men have stress, I'm not saying that, but do you think women experience stress and anxiety more? And why do you think that if you do?
Sure. Well, that's a great question, Teresa. And I do think that. And I know that because that's what the statistics say. Statistics for even just say anxiety disorders in themselves, women are 50% more likely to be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder than men are. So the statistics are there and the numbers don't lie. So yes. And also just from my personal lived experience as a woman, as a mother, as somebody that worked in corporate America for many years and now runs a business, and just we wear many hats. We have a lot on our shoulders. Again, not to dilute the stress that men may experience, because I think they also have a unique experience that needs to be honored. But yes, I think we do have higher levels.
Yeah, I've never really studied it carefully, but I highly suspect it.
Yeah.
um, I noticed on your website you had mentioned something along the lines of people just sort of believing that stress is a normal part of life, so they accept it. And I don't think they realize that state of being pretty much robs us of our joy.
It does.
So I was really wondering how do you get people to recognize that they don't have to be stressed all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that comes in different ways for different people. I think sometimes it's as simple as letting somebody know, right? That that is not normal, right? I think we absorb that from our culture, from our work environments, from our families, the way that we grew up. If we grew up in, say, a very stressful, chaotic household that maybe it was financially stressed or there was a lot of fighting or abuse or anything, right? When we come from stressful environments, we expect that life is to be stressful, right? And also, we're bombarded with messages that that we have to suffer or sacrifice. And, that subconsciously, gets ingrained in us, in our psyche, that this is normal. This is what being an adult is all about. This is what life is all about. It's hard. And I reached a point in my own life, Teresa, where I refuse to subscribe to that belief anymore. I am here for only a predetermined time that I'm not aware of when will end. So, I want to make the most of it. I want to be happy. And I think most people want that for themselves. They haven't given that permission to themselves. And, frankly, it's not anybody's fault. We're just subject to our own environment and our culture.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think too, some of it is this busyness that has become part of the culture. It's like if you're
Mhm.
not busy, there's something wrong with you. And I think that's where a lot of this gets generated too. So everyone's filling up their like every second of their day to be busy, even
Mhm.
if it's not something productive or you have to throw self-care out the window or I think it is a lot cultural. I agree with that.
Definitely. And busyness is often mistaken for success and
Right.
happiness. So yeah, it's all wrapped up and intertwined, and there's some untangling there to do for sure.
Yeah, a lot.
A huge paradigm shift, if you ask me.
Well, it's interesting you say that because we do workshops and we use some cognitive behavioral therapy techniques in some of those workshops. And one of the regular ones I use, even if it's not part of the workshop, but I just scatter it through, is recognizing and trying to change the word should to could.
Yes.
So they literally get like a prize if they catch somebody saying should, because I'm trying to get people to see like, the energy between should and could is enormous and it really affects us every day. And just recently, I had someone in one of my workshops say there have to be shoulds.
Mm.
And I thought, "Oh gosh, she's so far so far on the unhappy side of life at this point if that's what she believes that everything has to be shoulds." And
Mhm.
so I was wondering if you could share maybe one technique or tip or whatever it is that you would use just to help someone that's really embedded in that sort of paradigm that everything is should and everything is have to. How would you
Mm.
perhaps help them shift into a different perspective?
Sure. Well, and that type of black and white thinking, right? The right and wrong is very heavily tied, and I'm sure you know this, to perfectionism and people pleasing. And at the core of perfectionism and people pleasing is really just the desire to be loved and accepted as we are. Again, from our lived experience, we may have learned that if we don't do X, Y, and Z, then there are negative, repercussions or consequences. And or even just negative feedback, right? So perfectionism and people pleasing is really um, our attempt, right, to outsmart ever feeling those negative feelings ever again, right? So when we're in that mode of black and white thinking, right? Much like your tactic, I love the word I choose, right? I choose to do this. I get to do this, right? Like your life, you need to be in the driver's seat of your life. Your life is not driving you. And so if you feel like you should do something, there is, I think backing up and asking yourself some of those introspective questions of why do I feel like I need to do this? Who is this benefiting? Is this going to help me get to the place that I'm hoping to get to? How is it benefiting me? We're we're told that we need to sacrifice for other people. We need to put ourselves on the back burner, and it's really not productive, because when we neglect ourselves, we just can't bring our best selves to our family, to our jobs, to our children, to the lives that need us so much. So yeah, I love the word I choose because it's very empowering.
I agree. We use that a lot in the podcast, that it's
Yeah,
a choice. Everything's a choice. We can
it
make that choice,
is.
but a lot of people don't quite see it yet.
We
So we're
all have
getting it though.
reasoned choice for sure.
So speaking of self-care, and I did
Mhm.
read some of this on your website too, but what do you personally, what's your self-care practice? In general, not too personal, but you know what I mean? What do
Yeah.
you generally do for self-care?
Yes, and this is I actually have a free download ebook on my website. It's called The Gift of Calm. And this has some of my favorite ways for self-care and just ways to slow down, right? Find a little bit of peace in an overwhelming world. And my favorite way is, number one, I'm very big on routines. I love finding time for quiet and stillness, right? So, morning routine, evening routine, I do quite a bit of meditation. Um, you know, Exercise, but on the same hand, I've learned to really be gentle with that, right? I think people think of exercise and they think of like killing yourself at the gym, or, in some crazy CrossFit class, or, whatever it is. And sometimes your body doesn't need that, right? The self-care that it's craving is something that's more gentle and easy, like just a walk in the park. But I just love to indulge in, essential oils and burning candles and just setting the stage and really creating a really nourishing environment in my home, right? Like my home to me is such a sacred place. My bedroom, I have an altar, I do a lot of prayer. And really just, yeah, finding those moments for myself, and staying present even in the small moments that I sprinkle throughout my day, right? Even if it's a 10-minute break where I sit on my patio and have a cup of tea and can really just rest and relax, right? And be present for those 10 minutes and not rush, right? The not rushing is a huge thing when it comes to self care. I love taking my time when I can and slowing down so that I can intentionally be where I'm at and feel grateful for those small moments.
Oh, that's excellent. You're making me smile because I have one of my routines, or one of the things I finally memorized, it's a habit now, is if I am rushing, like I'm running late, or
Mhm.
something's going on where I'm feeling that feeling you get when you're rushed, you're under pressure. The
Yes.
very first thing is I slow down. And when
Yeah.
I teach people that, like, no, the first thing you need to do is slow down, and they're like, "No, I have to go faster." I was like,
Mhm.
"No, don't go faster." Once you slow down, it clears your mind, you're able to think
Mhm.
better, you're able to make better decisions. But it does seem
Sure.
counterintuitive to people when I say you can get more done if you slow down. So I love that's part of your self care routine.
Absolutely.
Um, Let me think here. What else I wanted to ask you? Oh, I know the vast majority of people that I'm speaking to lately. and you just reminded me this with what you were saying. They're feeling very overwhelmed. And when we've polled, at each workshop lately, we've been polling like, what's the top stressor? What's causing all of this stress? People aren't coming down. Things are getting more normal now, but people don't seem to be relaxing at all yet.
Right.
And it turns out that the number one cause, or reason, I should say,
Mhm.
is the lack of a work life balance.
Mm.
And so as we're trying to tell them, but you have to keep it somewhat separated. I don't believe in separating your work from, your personal life. I think it's all intertwined. But when it comes to physically doing tasks, I do think it's important to say, okay, work is over and now it's time for me to focus on me or my family or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming a lot of this is because so many people are working from home that aren't accustomed to it. So, they're having problems with that boundary. But I'm just wondering, as we kind of emerge back out into the world again now, they seem to be carrying that with them. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that and if you think it's important.
Absolutely. And, more than balance, because I do think that the the goal of balance is somewhat elusive, right? There's never going to be a moment where everything is equally in balance. I think what really we're after is harmony, right? We're after harmony between the different areas of our life, right? The fact is that one week your job might need you more and the next week your family may need you more, right? And sometimes overtime happens, right? Meetings go long. There's hair on fire moments where it's all hands on deck, right? And that's okay. I think that I too, actually in my previous life, I spent 10 years in talent acquisition. So recruiting and staffing is a very high stress, fast paced industry. Worked in HR, and it was nonstop. But yeah, I think that right now they've noticed that there's no separation, right? They're living at work, they're working at home, spending too much time with their spouse and their children. So boundaries are more important than ever. And being firm about those boundaries. I think it's actually a beautiful opportunity to model that behavior for the rest of your family and communicate openly about your needs and how you're feeling. Not to say that it's always easy, but there is an opportunity that's there. And there's also an opportunity to carry it back into corporate America with saying that, hey, this doesn't work for us anymore, right? We talked a little bit about paradigm shifts, Teresa, and this is a huge one, right? I still do. I mean, there's a lot of career aspects that are intertwined in my coaching sometimes when people are within a transition or they're trying to figure out what they want for themselves. And one of their biggest complaints is that, yeah, they've got a terrible boss or that their workload is too much. They're understaffed. They're carrying the weight of three positions. So I do think that it has to come from our voice though, right? It will go on forever if we don't say anything, right? Like leadership, they don't know they're none the wiser, right? If nobody says anything, they just think, everything's moving along as it should. The work keeps getting done. Well, if the work isn't getting done or it's not getting done to the standard that they want, that's the red flag to, speak up. That's the red flag to say, "Hey, we're drowning here. We need another position." Or this isn't working for my life anymore. I'm going to have to go find another opportunity, right? Um so yeah, that too isn't going to be easy, but I have hopes for corporate America that they're starting to realize that people want flexibility, they want support, they have lives outside of their job and they deserve to live those lives.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Well, first, we call our workshop on the topic of work life. We call it work life harmony. So I
Oh,
can
really? Oh my
yeah,
gosh, it's so
because it's
funny.
impossible to have a balance. So that we follow the same exact philosophy. But what I do find also really fascinating as far as this big sort of paradigm shift we're having with work is that I read a poll a couple of weeks ago that 80% of the population in the United States, and I'll bet you it's not just here, they don't want to go back to working in the office 5 days a week.
Right.
Now that they've
Yeah.
tasted it, many don't want to stay home all the time. A lot of people do not, it's just not their cup of tea to work from home,
Sure.
but they like the idea of some kind of a hybrid workplace. And so I believe employers are going to have to pay attention because 80% is, they can't do without 80% of the work population. So,
No, that's an alarming amount and I believe it. I absolutely
yeah,
do
yeah.
because yeah, I think that hybrid model is really amazing, right? Because it does give people the best of both worlds. It gives them some slack, right? To some just freedom to, not have to, I mean, especially I mean, you're in LA, I'm in Houston. Hello, traffic, right? I mean, how many hours have I spent in the car? I'm sure you feel the same. Whew. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been the biggest shock to me of this whole thing because we've been shut down for a long time. We just started opening back up again a few weeks
Yeah.
ago, and uh, I I don't know, I can't remember even the mileage now, but I drove. I have clients all over LA County, so I spent a lot of time in the car, sometimes 5 hours a day,
Oh,
and
wow.
so I went through at least 2 tanks of gas a week.
Oh,
And
wow.
the first year of the shutdown, for all of 2020, I put gas in my car one time and I drove less than 500 miles. And so it was the weirdest thing to me. It was like,
Oh my
car
gosh.
is going to like fall apart because it's just sitting there. I've
Right,
never
I know.
experienced that in LA, but yeah, so I'm not anxious to go back. Maybe not this extreme, but I'm not that anxious to go back to the traffic either.
No, definitely not. Me neither.
Well, I think as people go, I mean, what I'm hoping is that as we go through this transition, and the whole country's in a different place, every state's kind of different, and I know it's exploding in some places, the virus, but in other
Yeah,
places like here, finally, it seems to just be quickly dissipating, and which means everyone at some level is dealing with change. And
yeah,
of course, that's the one area that tends to really trigger stress for people is change, even if it's good change, positive change.
for sure.
Um, and so I'm hoping that they take this opportunity to think through what they've experienced in the last little over a year and that they don't give up on all the things that they found they do enjoy or that do serve them or help them serve others. So it's very
Yes,
similar to what
definitely.
you were
There's been a lot of beautiful self-discovery, I think, for a lot of people in this last year. And it's, it's something that we can't just like walk away from, right? I mean, that once you're awake to that, there's really no going back.
yeah, it was like a wake-up call, I think, for a lot
Mhm.
of people, and maybe not a pleasant alarm at the beginning, but I
Right.
think they've kind of figured out like, "Oh, there's some aspects of this that are pretty good."
For sure.
So, if we go back to people being anxious and stressed,
Mm.
as a coach, um, how do you define the difference or guide someone to determine whether they should see a coach or a therapist?
Sure, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean the biggest difference or the main difference between coaching and counseling or therapy, right, is that counseling slash therapy is really focused on the past, right? It's focused on the past, and maybe even the present, whatever's happening, if you need to unravel or make sense of things, right? So that you can then be prepared to move forward. Coaching is about moving forward. It's about the future. It's very future and solution oriented. So, and I've said this to past really doesn't matter, right? We're creating a new future. We're creating a new reality for you, right? Um, and sometimes I think coaching works best when you do get to that point where you've made peace with a lot of those things from the past, and now you're ready to take action. You're in a position where you're like, "Yep, I want to go after that," right? And that's sometimes the struggle for people who are in therapy or who have been in therapy for a while. They're like, I just don't feel like I'm making any progress. Like, it's great to vent and it's great to get those things off my chest, but like, what do I do? Right. Like, I'm not getting any action steps. I'm not getting this kind of support that they're really craving. Um, so yeah, that's the biggest difference there. And yeah, I mean, coaching is just transformational. I think that having that support during any transition is essential, right? It just changes your entire experience for the better.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think we have a coaching certification program, and we really stress, this is not therapy, this is not counseling, you're not licensed, psychotherapists or anything. But at the same time, when you're in coaching sessions with people, sometimes it feels like that because the base of it is the communication. Someone's talking to you about what their challenges are, and you're listening, and so there's a little bit of a crossover. But I agree with you; it's very for us, especially because mindfulness is
Mhm.
such a big piece of ours, it's very focused on right now and the future. And, the past is over.
The
I
past
mean, we have
is
techniques to help people, maybe work through some of those things if they're really a barrier. But I would
sure.
agree with that. And I'm really curious about your resilient women. Resilient Woman group coaching program. Oh, that was a mouthful.
Yes, yes, it's actually called the Empowered Resilient Woman. It's a
Okay.
90-day transformational program. And, this program was really designed for people to to significantly reduce their stress and overwhelm, right? To say goodbye to self doubt so that they can live courageously, so that they can break free and just like create a positive, resilient mindset moving forward, right? So this is going to be great. This is actually the second enrollment that's going to be kicking off in June 1st. So May, we will be doing an event on actually May 4th. I don't know if this will be live by then, but certainly we'll be enrolling the entire month of May, and kickoff week will be June 1st. So it's a powerful program. I think that there's lifelong tools and resources packed into this program, right? And just the camaraderie too that you get from your fellow group members. I think that sometimes people are a little shy about it, but there's a lot of beautiful connections that are made inside this group. And I just love it. I've had a lot of fun with it this year, and I'm excited to run another round.
Oh, wow, that sounds really great. I know I have a lot of women ask me. In fact, we're trying to put a workshop together for it. And again, specifically to women, not to exclude men, but men don't seem to have this problem, which is they have a real challenge around the difference between being assertive and being aggressive.
Yep.
And so I've been thinking along the same lines of in that case, I think it would be more empowering and more sort of peer supported to have a group of women, where they can really kind of talk about that because it is something that creates a huge amount of stress for women, I think, because they don't know how that it's a fine line. I'm not saying it's not sometimes a fine line, but in understanding how to navigate the world without being aggressive, but being assertive enough to stand up for what you want or what you believe or what you need. So,
Yep.
um,
For
you're
sure. And this program is really for people who are ready to move forward, right? They're ready to take action. Maybe they don't even know what they need, but they know that something needs to change and they're not sure where to start. Like this is a great jumping off point. If you've been in through a transition, if you're currently in a transition or you're just moving into a new phase of your life, this is going to be extremely powerful.
That's great, and I'm assuming it's virtual?
It is virtual,
Okay.
yeah. The logistics are really, again, not meant to overwhelm or stress you out even more. A lot of it, the trainings and the work is really done on your own personal time, and then we have group coaching calls biweekly. So it's really, really easy to connect and to fit it into your schedule because we all do have really busy lives.
Absolutely. Now, if someone was interested, how would they find out more information?
Yeah, sure. Well, certainly they can visit our website, which is www.encompasscoachingservices.com. And again, timing, right? We're going to be holding a free masterclass on May 4th. Enrollment is going to go through May 4th to basically the start of the program. So there will be a tab on my website that's specifically dedicated to the program. And if you just hop on my website and want to book a free discovery call, we can obviously talk about the program. We can talk about one-on-one coaching and really see what is going to be the best fit for, each individual, right? And what really feels right for them at this juncture.
Wow, that's great. Okay. I have one more question for you.
Sure, yes.
We ask all of our guests this question, which is when you get stressed, because we all get stressed sometimes, even if we practice everything perfectly all the time. Not perfectly, but you know what I mean. But we still have stressful moments. You get that
Mhm.
call or the deadline's looming or whatever it is. What is your go to practice to address that specific stress as it rises?
Yes, great question. So, first and foremost, I'm going to see if there's anything that I can cross off my schedule altogether. What can I say no to? What can I cancel? What can I reschedule so that I can clear some space and create some breathing room for myself? Number two, what are my resources? Who are my people that I can go to for help? Who I can delegate to? What are the other things floating around in my peripheral that are interfering with the thing that I'm trying to accomplish and again adding more stress, right? If I can't cancel it, or you know just get rid of it altogether, can I delegate it? Can I outsource it? Can I find an easier way, right? Like that's my motto: is when things feel hard, make them feel easy. And then third, find space for self-care. Up that, just be gentle, and remind myself that whatever it is not the end of the world, right? That I'm going to get through it. And sometimes, just sometimes the best thing that you need in that moment is just to wait, right? Just to give that thing some space and stop pushing on it, to stop rushing it, because a lot of things just happen in their own time, and we can't make everything happen. Sometimes we have to sit back and just be patient, and that's also very hard. So, reminding myself of that is always a good practice.
That's an excellent practice, and it's certainly part of mindfulness, which is
Yes.
allow whatever's going to unfold, just let it unfold, even if it's unpleasant for a little while, because it'll pass, right?
Yes, every day's an adventure, that's for sure.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your information with our listeners. And
Yes,
I
my
wish you
pleasure.
best of luck with the second launch of your coaching program.
Thank you.
I look forward to hearing how things go. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Teresa.
Take care. Bye bye.